4 players are overdrafted in your fantasy football leagues, and you should not be drafting them this year. We're going to give you the reasons why and the research that we've done behind each of these guys. First, do us a huge favor. If you play fantasy football, drop a like on the video. It helps us out a ton. It's a free way to support the channel. And another way is to subscribe. If you play fantasy football, we're going to be giving you fantasy football content all season long, every single week to help you win your leagues. Weekly rankings, weekly start sits, weekly takeaways. So you're going to want to be here. Make sure you're subscribed if you play fantasy football. And we're going to get into it today. We're going to start the first player that's being overdrafted. And this wasn't necessarily true a week and a half ago, but it definitely is now because we have not seen an ADP change, even with updated ADP numbers. And it's going to be Breece Hall. And look, we all love Breece's talent. All of us. And we all remember the Adrian Peterson story of how amazing Adrian Peterson was off of his ACL tear. Yes, it's possible for running backs to do that. But that's not the normal story for running backs. We excitedly wait every August for these guys to get back on the field, get back into training camp, start getting their reps in again. But even when they do, their performance is not the same as it was pre-injury. At least not in the first year. Here are 3 recent running backs coming off of ACL tears. The first one's going to be 2018 Dalvin Cook, who was the RB19 in points per game in 2018, and he was also the RB30 overall. In 2021, Saquon came back, and he was the RB34 in points per game and the RB30 overall. And in 2022, J.K. Dobbins came back. He was the RB31 in points per game and the RB57 overall. So, again, we've seen numerous times over the last couple of years that it does usually take 2 years for running backs to come back. But then we also have a new problem now. Even before this, I know this is true for you too. I wasn't drafting a ton of Breece, and I don't typically draft a ton of guys off an ACL.
Honestly, he never even fell into my lap, so I don't have any shares of Breece.
So we have a second problem though. The Jets recently signed Dalvin Cook. Everybody knows that. Dalvin was the RB16 last year. People want to act like Dalvin's washed and he's coming in just to, kind of ride coattails. He's not, and he's going to be
$8 million.
The Aaron Jones to Aaron Rodgers this year on the Jets. He just will be. That's a pretty strong deal for a running back, by the way. That's nothing to
in this market. Yeah,
that's nothing to fade by any means. I mean, they aren't just going to bench Dalvin anytime Breece is playing either. That's not what's happening. In fact, Breece is a little bit later than they thought getting back from his rehab. Anyways, Dalvin's going to have a very healthy role in that Jets offense, and that has to be factored into both Dalvin's price and Breece's price. And I think we've seen an ADP change for Dalvin, especially. He's jumped up, but I don't think we've seen enough of a change for Breece. I really don't.
Yeah.
How much are their productions? I mean, how far off are their productions going to be this year?
Not as far as their ADP is indicating. I mean,
near as far.
Dalvin isn't even touching RB2 right now, a top 24 running back, and Breece Hall is still fringe high-end RB2, low-end running back 1, and he's dipped a little bit, but I'm honestly surprised because we are big into buying the dip on players, big into buying the dip when their situation has changed minimally.
Yeah.
Or in a way that actually positively impacts their play. I mean, see Christian Kirk, see Josh Jacobs, see Jonathan Taylor, see Saquon Barkley before he got his deal done. Like, all those guys were being faded, and those running backs are going to get deals, and then Christian Kirk we think is actually going to be complementary with Calvin Ridley as well. So, but with Breece Hall, they drafted or they signed Dalvin Cook on a team that is very openly, very clearly making a run for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's true.
For the Super Bowl, there's no other team in the NFL that is not contending that is going to sign Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious to me how they're going to utilize him. I mean, you could make a case this year that Dalvin Cook is the running back 1 in the Jets offense.
Breece's upside is going to be significantly capped because of Dalvin Cook and because he's coming off an ACL tear. He's been dropping a little bit, like I said, since the Dalvin Cook news, but honestly still being considered a strong RB2, and you should definitely let him keep dropping in your fantasy leagues for sure.
It's pretty indicative of what the Jets think about his rehab too. I think they were kind of bummed that he didn't come back as quickly as maybe they expected. So next guy is going to be Kyle Pitts. And look, we need to address the good about Kyle Pitts first. He's an athletic freak. Top 4 pick in the NFL draft. 1,000 yards as a rookie. Number 6 tight end as a rookie. On a points per game basis.
Get it.
We absolutely understand
it. Pre-Jake London, though.
Now let's get that out of the way. And here are all the reasons, all the ways that Pitts will likely be a pretty bad pick for the second year in a row. So that 2021 tight end 6 finish was with Matt Ryan throwing the ball. And yes, Matt Ryan, bad. He's, in a press box now. He's going to be commentating. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
We know.
We absolutely know that he was bad. In 2021, the volume that Matt Ryan provided for Kyle Pitts in that offense was 573 pass attempts. Last year, the passing volume went down to 415, and they ran the ball 559 times. Do you think they're actually going to throw it that much more with Desmond Ridder this season? They probably will throw it a bit more, but the offense is probably going to look closer to last year than it was 2021. My biggest reason for that being, I don't know, like Bijan Robinson.
You ever heard of him?
I don't know if you've heard of him, but
You ever heard of Artie Smith as well with the mustache?
His mustache is pretty cool.
Running the ball.
He likes to run the ball. The Falcons made that clear, obviously, by drafting Bijan Robinson. We're being sarcastic. You guys know it. There cannot be a high-producing tight end, a top 16 producing wide receiver, and an elite top 3 producing running back in the same offense when they're running the ball over 550 times. The reason for optimism last year with Pitts is that it was his second year. He was still super young and only scored 1 touchdown in year 1. Last year, though, he had exactly 5 red zone targets in 10 games. That is not cutting it. He only scored 2 touchdowns from those 5 games. So a nice touchdown rate, but look, 5 red zone targets, that does nothing for me in fantasy. Absolutely nothing for me, because again, they use their running backs. They're going to get the main load there, especially Bijan Robinson. Yep. There's a mystery over the MCL injury. They've kind of been hush-hush about it. Everyone's just kind of assuming that he's going to be back to normal coming back from this injury. He had surgery on it in November, and while he's back at practice, he's been doing less at practice than expected for somebody who's that far out from an MCL injury. Again, that's not been a big media thing. No one's really heard anything about that. Atlanta keeps saying that he's fine, and maybe he is, but I mean, every player currently is fine in the NFL right now. No one wants to say that they're not doing well unless they're out for the season. Yep. It's still a risk, guys. It's absolutely still a risk. So you have a low volume passing offense with a shaky quarterback and a tight end who hasn't shown the ability to be a huge red zone threat, who also has an injury question mark. And we all know the upside with Kyle Pitts. He showed it his first year, but that upside again with Matt Ryan. Then you throw in Drake London.
I was going to say, we're just now getting to Drake London. Drake London
just
should be
now getting there.
The nail in the coffin to this argument.
That is, yep.
And we like Kyle Pitts as a talent, but Drake London is going to probably draw more targets than Kyle Pitts is because Drake London is so freaking good. And I think Desmond Ridder will probably favor Drake London a little bit more.
And I think some people are starting to see this. They're taking Darren Waller of all tight ends over Kyle Pitts, which I don't love Darren Waller either, but
it's not a bad pick,
at least
honestly.
Pitts is starting to be shorted a little bit, but like legit, I'm not a fan of Darren Waller. I trust Darren Waller going into this season maybe even more than I do Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
Because of his ceiling. So
the next guy on this list, and we know you're not going to be happy about this, but you have to hear us out. There's legitimate research and statistics behind this. I don't know how you can argue this. It's going to be DK Metcalf. Look, we understand why people are high on DK Metcalf going into this year.
I don't know how many different ways we can say it.
I know. When you look at DK Metcalf last year, he was 11th in targets. That's a good number. Second in red zone targets. That's an even better number. But he was only 20th in touchdowns. And most people would make the argument, like they do for Deontay Johnson, that touchdowns are fluky. We're going to expect that to go up this year. We think there's a lot more to the story than just those statistics and a predicted bounce back in touchdowns. First, and we've said this and we just get trashed for it, but this is the absolute truth. DK Metcalf has never been the best at turning actual targets into catches. So when you look at his true catch rate, what his true catch rate is, and you can't say this is invalid or a random stat, it is if the quarterback throws him a catchable ball, how often is DK turning that into a catch? It's always not been super good. He was 102nd in that metric in 2019. He was 63rd in 2020. He was 85th in 2021, and he was 81st in 2022. Guys, that's not good at all. So you can't just look at his targets and then turn that into volume catch-wise, especially in PPR leagues. He's always going to catch less balls than you think he is if you just look at his target numbers. The second thing is that Seattle went out in the first round and drafted a receiver in Jackson Smith-Njigba, a receiver that we happen to be very high on, by the way. I mean, we think that Jason's going to come out year 1 and he's going to have a very strong year. Even if you think it's going to be slower, look at this. All other Seahawks receivers besides DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett had only 75 targets combined last year. All like 8 of those tight ends and, a couple other guys here and there. 75 though. I mean, the addition of JSN is easily going to eat into both DK and Lockett's targets. Do not think that they're going to put JSN on the bench, dude. I'm telling you, JSN is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He is a target monster. He's going to be open all the time with those two guys. They're going to help each other, yes, but DK's not going to get as many targets. And DK's not good at turning his targets into catches anyways. Statistically, that's not my opinion. That is a fact. And look, we're all high on Geno Smith mostly. Most of us are counting on him to kind of repeat his magical year. There is more room for downside than upside with Geno Smith. I mean, so do take that with a grain of salt as well.
But Avery, Can I just say something?
Oh, goodness.
Your take on DK Metcalf is just crap.
Yeah.
And do you know my reason for why?
Because you don't agree?
No, because it just is. You're just wrong.
Guys,
I mean, it's laughable that you would say that Jason is a better talent than DK when he was drafted in the first round.
And I hate to be sarcastic and I hate to be, defensive, but honestly, we get a ton of crap for this. And
there's no statistical backing for it at all.
And this is really something that you should be considering and a guy you should be considering avoiding. Look, he's being drafted right now as a low-end wide receiver 1 and high-end wide receiver 2. If he falls, you can grab him. Yeah, if he falls, grab him.
Absolutely.
He's a good player. He's a very good NFL wide receiver. He's an athletic freak. We
really
get it.
like
He's
him.
big. He's fast. He catches high points. We get it. But someone in your league is likely to see all that talent and take him where he's going at cost. Do not be the person that takes DK Metcalf at cost this year in your fantasy football leagues.
Don't fall for it.
You got the last guy.
Kirk Cousins. And this is going to be something where, look, a fantasy, this one is a fantasy strategy question as much as anything, because as an NFL talent, we really like Kirk Cousins.
He's safe.
We really do. He's super safe.
Yeah.
Honestly, as safe as it gets.
Yeah.
Over the last 3 seasons, he was 11th, 12th, and 11th in points per game.
Was the Vikings quarterback?
Yeah. Yeah. The Vikings threw the 3rd most pass attempts in the league last season. And with the addition of Jordan Addison and the loss of Dalvin Cook, that shows honestly no signs of changing. They're probably going to pass it as much as they have. And honestly, I would wager if it were to do anything, it would probably increase just a little bit because there is no more passing down back, but Addison is better than that. So look, in a 2 QB or a super flex league, he's a phenomenal pick. As your QB2, he's a phenomenal pick. If you're playing in a 16-team league, Cousins' floor is also very valuable for you. But when you're looking at standard 1 QB fantasy leagues, Cousins is being overdrafted because you don't always want the guys who are on average going to score the most points. You want the players who are going to help you win. And when Cousins at price is going where Cousins is going to produce, that means there's no upside with him. QB 11 going pick 99 in ESPN leagues. That's fine. Again, QB 11. But why not draft other guys going in that range? So guys going in that range that you're bypassing. J.K. Dobbins is going behind him. I understand there's risk with J.K. Dobbins.
Got risk.
The risk. I understand there's risk with J.K. Dobbins. But if you want to take a gamble on a running back who literally has elite level upside as a runner and is making guys miss and blowing past them when he's literally 50% and limping on the field, like you're going with a guy like J.K. Dobbins who is supposedly fully healthy going into this season. JSN is behind him, who we just talked about.
You get it.
Yeah, Dotson, Jordan Addison, all those wide receivers. Cousins is going to be a below average starter in your league for sure. He's not your QB1 that you want to draft. And I guess that's what we're saying. If you wait to draft a quarterback until the middle rounds, don't bet on Kirk Cousins. Bet on a Daniel Jones or bet on an Anthony Richardson, who was just announced to be the starting quarterback week 1. They have rushing upside. They have higher ceilings than Cousins does because of that rushing upside. And I think that's mainly what we're going to say here. Cousins, plenty of passing volume. More passing volume than AR is going to have. More passing volume than Daniel Jones is going to have. But in your standard redraft leagues, take the guys that have rushing upside. Or take the guy that's cheaper in Jared Goff, who's probably going to finish in the same range because they have such an elite level offense. And he's a product of their system. Cousins is simply going too high for what he can offer you in a 1 QB league.
Look, we try to back all this up with statistics. We do, and I think we did a good job at that. So if you disagree, you can let us know. I mean, if you think the stats are lying, I guess, but don't. I mean, we support our argument. So we get a lot of these are the worst videos we've ever seen on these don't avoid videos. We understand that the community is drafting these guys where they are. We understand you're probably going to disagree because if you agreed, then they wouldn't be going this high. Their ADP wouldn't be higher than what we're comfortable with. We understand the community's typically opposite of consensus. However, we are telling you, statistically, these guys are going to be less likely to return the points that you need for them to actually be good values at their price. So do us a huge favor. If you play fantasy football, drop a like on the video. Yeah, helps us out a ton. And make sure you're subscribed. We're going to have fantasy football content all year round. Head over to flockfantasy.com/domain to get all the resources you need to win your leagues, including our full 2023 fantasy football rankings and exclusive start-sit live streams coming in the season from our channel as well. We appreciate you watching. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later.